nice little Halloween intro treat for you there. First, of course, T. Chasman with the intro song, followed by Poltergeist OD with the song Act. Please check him out. He is streaming everywhere. Let me get the ads out of the way real quick. Check us out on Twitter at Cynical Sensibly, Instagram Sensibly Cynical Pod, and please follow us on Facebook. There is no trivia answers this week. I will read them next week. Subscribe to Sensibly Cynical. We are available on wherever you get your podcasts. Here is the Sensibly Cynical Halloween special. Welcome, everybody, to the first, hopefully, annual Sensibly Cynical Halloween special. Joining me first to talk about everything paranormal, including TwaT FM, Fear.
Woo!
Happy Halloween, man.
Happy Halloween, brother. This is awesome.
You guys do good shit over there, you know? How's it going?
Things are good, man. We kind of took a break from the podcasting stuff so we could focus kind of on our TikToks and our YouTube channel, and that's it's actually popping off pretty good, which is sweet.
That pop star that I had on not too long ago, Lee Stein, was trying to, I don't know if you listened to the podcast, but the most recent episode I did, Lee Stein, great artist. She was schooling me on TikTok. She's Gen Z, so she's like schooling.
Okay.
And then that was a good episode. I got good downloads on it. And then I was telling her about how MySpace was good back in the day, you know?
Yeah.
To tell everybody how old I am. So I graduated high school in like 2005. And I remember I was in college. I was in, well, obviously I went to college. Everyone does, right? Fear. Well, not everybody, but
yeah.
The people that listen to Sensibly Cynical, the random ass podcast that talks about nothing, they all go to college, all my listeners.
Absolutely, but, yeah. not the flunkies we got over at TwaT FM. Those dudes barely get out of high school, bro.
Didn't you get banned from something? Didn't you come back? What'd they ban you from?
Yeah, fuck. I got banned on TikTok because I like to smoke weed, and apparently you can't do any of that shit on there.
You had two friends that were Mary and Jane, and they didn't like that?
Yep. Yeah.
They didn't like Mary or Jane?
No, and so they tagged me on some bullshit, and then just all of a sudden they didn't give me any warnings or nothing. They gave me like little bullshit warnings, like, hey, you shouldn't post that or whatever, these fucking warnings that come up. But then I was only using it to put out the video because I like their platform for the video, and it was just me doing a bong rip, and I immediately deleted it. But apparently the fucking computer gods caught it, and they were just, so the next time I logged in, it's like, nah, bitch, you don't work, you ain't here no more. So
did you tell MDI you're coming on Sensibly Cynical again?
Hell yeah.
What'd she say?
She was like, that's awesome, go have some fun. And her and the rest,
she was probably like, how many times you can be on this fucking short Irish guy show?
She's like, that motherfucker again. I'm like, I gotta go 4 times, I gotta get my title.
Mr. Cynical Sensibly. You'd be surprised when people fuck up that name, Sensibly Cynical. It's incredible.
Cynically sensible? Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
No, it's like sensible, cynically, senile, cynical. I've gotten it all.
Oh, that sounds. I usually get, hey, don't you do that show? And I'm like, yeah, that's me.
But Sensibly Cynical, it has good branding, you know.
Fucking yeah, it does.
So what do you remember about Paranormal Activity? It was about this couple, right? And they were being haunted by a demon, and they were like, all right, well, let's set up some cameras and figure out what the fuck's going on. Right?
Yeah, it was super interesting. Like I said, with the found footage kind of took off after the Blair Witch, and then I really liked found footage, and then it just really got played out real quick because everybody was doing it. But Paranormal Activity was one of those ones where it was very minimal shit. Like you said, the budget was shoestring, and it made bank. And that's the biggest reason why people started making those movies, because you could do them with just little parlor tricks. You didn't need a bunch of CGI. It was scary as shit, and you get the return in dividends, right?
Yeah, and they started strong, and now they go all the way down to Paramount Plus.
yeah. I haven't even looked into the new one at all yet.
On Paramount Plus on October. We're recording this on the 20th, so Paranormal Activity 7, Next of Kin, will be released on the 29th on Paramount Plus.
Ooh.
if you remember, Paramount bought rights to the Paranormal Activity for, I think I wrote it down. It was like $200,000 to do a new ending, and they changed the ending in 2009, and it was an alternate release. It was like a limited release.
Oh shit! I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, so they got the rights to it. I think they paid $350 for the rights, and then $200 just for the ending. I forgot what the ending was, but I remember watching the first one, and that shit was crazy back in the day, man. So
no.
Remember about the specific movie, like Paranormal Activity 1? Like, what's your favorite parts of it?
You know what? I really like the way that they slowly ramped up the activity. I thought that, I guess it's the pacing. The pacing of the film, I feel, is on par with kind of like what I would do if I was like, okay, I'm being haunted. I'm gonna slowly, like, I'm gonna add this, I'm gonna add that, and just it was all the little minor scares.
Is that what you guys are doing in the horror pit?
That's what we do down there. Yeah, man. We just film us hanging out with ghosts, listening to fucking Slayer and shit.
No, man.
Yeah.
No, man. But so do you remember like a specific scene? Because the ending is crazy on that. No spoilers, but like the ending was crazy.
Yeah, there's one of the parts that like kind of blew my mind is when they kind of reach up into the attic and they find that stuff. I don't want to spoil anything, but like, come on, man. This came out years ago. You got to figure it out.
Edie and Micah, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And like you said, this was like one of the first like found footage films. So it kind of broke new ground on this thing. You know what I mean? One of the first. But Blair Witch was before this, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
but yeah, this was one of the ones that, cause like I said, there was like a plethora of fucking found footage films that came out.
They were young actors, right? They're Katie. The people who played these two were young, right?
They're pretty young. I'd say 20s, 30s, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like it was interesting, and then I don't know, man. It started to get kind of played out when they tried to like add more to it than it just being a ghost story.
I think I watched two. You know, when she got pulled into the basement.
Yeah.
Remember that scene?
Yeah, that was pretty wild. But that was the only part of the shit that I liked. That one was crazy, or like the baby scenes were kind of interesting.
Did you watch? Did you watch 3, 4, 5? Did you watch all of them?
I think I'm pretty sure I've seen them all. I liked 3. I think 3 was the one with the little girls, wasn't it?
Yeah, so talk about Paranormal Activity 3. It came out in 2011. What was it about that? What was that movie? Like, obviously we know what it's about, but talk about the plot in that movie. Like, what changed about it?
So it kind of goes back in time. It's almost like a prequel because it goes back to siblings, Katie and Christy, when they're living with their mother, Julie, and her boyfriend, and then paranormal situations started to trigger in their house and stuff. And that's kind of where it really takes a step back to like, okay, there's more to it than this one haunting or maybe 2 hauntings, or was she possessed or whatever. Now you're starting to work your way into like demonology and witchcraft and shit like that.
Mm. But wasn't Paranormal Activity 2 also a prequel?
Yeah. No, yeah, it was. I think, wasn't it?
That's what I wrote down. I believe that 2 was that, but I didn't know 3 was also one.
Yeah, because it goes back in time. So the first one, and then there's the prequel, and then
they all go way back. Yeah.
Yeah, because then it goes back to where they're kids, and she's got like a make believe friend or whatever, but it's really the fucking demon, and like that stuff got me because I had a daughter that was that age, so I'm watching this and I'm looking at my kid like, oh shit, I hope you don't got no demons hanging around you.
Yeah, well, I asked about 3 because looking at the reviews, the 1 and 3 got the best reviews of the whole series.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then 2 and 5 were mixed, and then they shit the bed on 4 and 6. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, I have Paramount Plus. I like trashy reality TV. That's what I like. So that's what's on Paramount Plus is trashy reality TV. Nice. So, you know, I have Paramount Plus, which a lot of people are like, what the fuck's on there, you know? But they have a lot of good shit on Paramount Plus, actually. Beavis and Butthead, they're redoing that, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, no, I heard they were doing that. Is it going to Paramount? Is that what they're doing?
Saturated. I'm worried about that because you know the PC culture. I'm worried that they're gonna, you know what I mean, like ruin Beavis and Butthead.
Well, because they did bring it back for a few episodes. I don't know, maybe in the last 10 years, didn't they?
I don't know, but they're going way back. They got the original people.
Yeah, no, I know Mike Judge is involved. and like he's gonna do the writing and the voices and such. But because I remember they brought it back for a brief period so instead of watching music videos, because music videos aren't super a thing anymore, instead they were watching like reality TV, like the shit that's on TLC or Paramount Plus and that sort of stuff, and they would just like talk shit over that. So I could see them kind of keeping that going.
I hope so, man. I think they will, because society's in this weird thing about they pick and choose what's sensitive and what's not. Yeah. It's really like selective canceling.
Oh, it totally is. Like, it's crazy.
Like they don't cancel Freddy and Jason's, but they cancel other shit.
Yep.
It's like, oh, let's kill each other and let's talk about some random shit like unfiltered, but then let's cancel relationship stuff.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, did you stop watching? Did you watch 4? Because 4 was in 2012, and then after 4 is when they started adding like subtitles to the movies. Like it was Paranormal Activity 4, and then I think it was Paranormal Activity with the sub. You know what I mean? Like Paranormal Activity, like a tagline. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I think they started adding taglines, and I mean, let me look that up.
Yeah. So Paranormal Activity, the Ghost Dimension.
Okay, that was 5, right?
Yeah, and the marked ones.
And I know coming out is Next of Kin. I know that.
Yeah, they wanted to make a universe out of it, you know?
Paranormal Activity, I'm going to look up Ghost. Because that one's kind of where I fade out kind of on 4. I think I watched 3, 2011.
Yeah.
Do you remember past 4?
No, like I remember... No, even 4. I'm looking at it now, and the only thing I remember is that scene that is on the cover or whatever with the girl looking on her laptop. Other than that, no, I like.
Okay, yeah, here it is. Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. That's the one that's kind of like, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that's the one like in California with the
high school,
Yeah, it was like yeah, down in Cali or whatever. I thought that one was really good. I like that one. It kind of had a weird sort of like voodoo-y sort of situation.
Here, 2004 or 2014, pardon me. Jesse begins experiencing a number of disturbing and unexplainable things. Shocker in a Paranormal Activity movie after the death of his neighbor. Oh yeah, that was the one where his neighbor died.
Yeah, and then they go and like.
And isn't that as long before he starts possession?
Yeah, like throwing guys around like it's the MCU, and he's like,
like it's Marvel before, like it's Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was in California, man. They go to a party, in the apartment complex. I remember that.
Yeah. I remember he gets like it looked like a bite on his arm or something.
Yeah, and he tells his friend about it. Ventilation. It was a ventilation shaft. Oh, that goes from one of their bedrooms to Anna's home down. Oh, so there's a shaft that goes to both. Oh, that makes sense. Ventilation. That makes sense.
Yeah, so they crawl down there to check it out.
Moaning noises. What's going on? Are they having intercourse in the ventilation shaft?
Yeah, man. It's like horror in the pit over there. It's just ghost sex all day.
The demon?
Yeah.
The demon from within comes out for both of us, for everybody.
Come down the shaft.
And let me release you.
Bless you, my child.
No, but they like some fucking fireworks in that shit. I think I remember that, actually, the scene,
I remember liking that one, but I can't remember where it plays in regards to the story. I thought it was like an offshoot, but maybe they worked it in together that it's part of the story, but I'm for digging it.
The Jesse finds blood in his bed coming from a bite mark on his arm.
Oh, huh. That's not so bad.
Yeah, I don't remember that too. I remember the party scene, but these are, I think you're right though. I think past 4, it starts getting reductive, like.
Yeah. And like, that's what I mean. They tried to weave like a storyline through it, but I don't care. Just show me ghosts, like just scare me. That's all I'm there for. I don't give a shit about the story.
Yeah. But I think they actually weave 5 into the first one very good. Like they go back to the same spot that it ended at. So I think they revert back at this one. You know what I mean? Because they go exactly where the place in the living room that the first one ended. They go back there.
Oh, okay.
And Hector sees Katie walking in a trance to get a knife from the kitchen. But overall budget, listen to this shit. Overall budget for the whole franchise. I believe this is the whole franchise. If I'm wrong, so what? Google. $28 million, but they made $890 million on $28 million budget. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, man. That's why they're gonna keep pumping these fucking things out.
Paramount Plus. Well, you know why they're doing Paramount Plus, right? And that's the thing I want to talk about too. COVID. They don't want people to go. It got delayed.
I got you.
7 actually was scheduled to come out in June of 19.
Oh shit!
And then COVID kept pushing it back. I'm actually going to watch it just because I have Paramount Plus, but I would probably watch it anyways because what's old is cool again sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, I will watch it. It's just like the fucking Halloween movies. I got to keep watching them even if I don't give a shit about them because I think Mike is only in the first one and then Katie kind of carries the rest, but. They don't give her a ton of time to develop who she is as a character, so I don't know if we ever get to see much of it. And like the actress herself, I have no idea if she ended up doing anything other than these films, but I don't know. But yeah, man, I'm definitely gonna go back and rewatch it. Like I was watching some of the trailers, just trying to like remember these films.
What's going on before 7 comes out?
Yeah, and I might just go back and run through them all quick.
So for those that don't know, that live under a rock and haven't listened to the first 3 times, which I mean, to be honest, 2 of them were trash movies. Where are you from, like originally, man?
So yeah, like I grew up in southwestern Ontario, up in the Great White North, And then I spent a good chunk of my life over in Alberta, and now we're living in Manitoba, up in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, so talk about TwaT FM. How did that start? What's going on with that? I know we were joking about it earlier in the podcast, but let's get serious for a minute. How's it going since you started it?
Good, man. Like we got off and running real quick. Like I said, my buddy Matt from Rat House Productions, he said, hey, if you guys ever want to do a show again, because FYFC fell apart, and it was tough, man. I didn't know if we were ever going to do shows again, and not just Matt. I had a couple of guys that definitely reached out and said, hey, we'll house you, we'll do whatever you need, and it just worked out really good because Matt has always been super supportive of us, and so he kind of talked me into it, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I don't need all the other bullshit, I don't need anybody, you motherfucker. No, I was just kidding.
You're like I got the Sensibly Cynical record, fuck everything else.
That's right, I got the belt, son. But yeah, man, so then
Cynical, you're both sensible and cynical.
Exactly. But yeah, that's it, man. Like we kind of started doing that, and then ever since we moved to Manitoba, it's just been like trying to get our gaming channel up and running, and we've got that going, and I've got a lot of crazy ideas. I've got a horror short film that I'm hoping to shoot in the next 3 months, and I don't know, man. It's just
do you want me to have you on when 1 or 2 people when one person gets the 4, or when a bunch of people get the 4 again?
I don't give a shit. When you ask, I will come. That's it.
That doesn't sound right.
Well, I mean, that's what we do in Horror in the Pit, man. It's crazy.
You know what I said? I said you're married. I don't want to cross that line.
What do you want me to do? Whack a guy, off a guy, whack off a guy? Because I'm married.
Wax on, wax off. Mr. Clean. Well, we always have a good time.
Feed the geese. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We always have a good time, man.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
So let's talk a little bit more about Parent Activity, and then we'll promote away. But did you know Japan did their own sequel?
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
And it was totally, obviously a different storyline or whatever, but they capitalized on it, and you gotta be smart like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, hell yeah.
You figure out
if something works. If you could, like you said, what, 28 million, and they made 890 million? Like fucking yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna film. Fuck it, I'm gonna go film a thing right now.
No. Fear, that's all time, like to date. But the first one was 193 on 15,000 budget.
Damn, that's what I'm saying, dude. Capitalize on that shit.
I don't know, man. I just find it interesting, these movies, I feel like I don't think this is going to, be honest with you, Paramount Plus is probably on the bottom list of streaming services. And I don't think it's going to do very good. I think it's going to make some news headlines that, it's back, on some entertainment website. The cult people, the millennials will be like, oh, guess what's back? And then in a week it'll.
Oh, yeah, no. And I think you're right. Like it'll come out. Some people will see it.
Well, you got any more thoughts on Paranormal Activity, or what do you think the legacy of it is? You think it just continued on the trend back then?
Yeah, I think they made a shit ton of money. I think it was supposed to be a standalone film, and then once it did as well as it did, they're like, okay, how can we spread this bitch out for, I don't know, 6 or 7 more of these whores? And yeah, I don't know. It's all the same sort of gags, right? Sight gags and this and that, but I don't know, man. I like it. But like, have you ever had any actual like paranormal activity that you've come in contact with?
I'll be honest, man. I'm on the fence about it, man. I think I go along with it as like a running joke. Like, you know, like if you ask me seriously about it, I mean, I don't believe in it. But like if for entertainment purposes of downloads for clicks, I mean, I'm just being candid here.
Yeah.
As a person that runs a podcast, I give me all the episodes. But if you're asking me like as Sean, the actual person, I mean, not really.
No, and that's cool, man. And I think that is a big deal. Like, I've had a ton of shit happen to me, so that's why, like, for me,
really, you're on the other fence. Well, explain why I'm full of shit. And why
that's the thing. I don't know what to believe. I only know what I've seen, but we only use a certain percentage of our brain. I don't know how much of that is just fucking hallucinations, right?
It's the same thing about when people die. Some people say they see a light when they die.
So I've had a ton of different things, from sleep paralysis to seeing things, having noises, having doors open and close, weird shit like that. Yeah, man. So here's a specific time. So a few years ago, I was working overnights at a hotel, and it was super awesome because it was like 3 of us working, and we just kind of did our own thing because there's like 20 minutes of work to do, and then you have 8 hours of jerking around. Mm-hmm. So I was like, fuck it. I've always wanted to write a film. So I sat down and I started writing this horror film, and I was looking into a lot of different things of the black arts, the occult, demons, different things like that. And slowly, like, weird shit started to happen where, like, I would hear whispers of, like, at first it was just kind of whispers, like I could hear people talking, and I'd be like, what? And there would be nobody there. Or, like, I would be like, what are you saying to my wife? And she's like, I'm not talking. And I was like, all right, that's weird. And then I would start to hear, like, bangs in the night that would wake me up. And then the whispers got louder that it was saying my name. And different weird shit like that. And I don't know, just a lot of people say, like, if you go looking for that bad shit, that shit will find you. And I thought it was just a bunch of bullshit.
About my women that I've dated in the past. So.
Exactly. If you go looking for those bad bitches, you're going to get them. But yeah, man, so it just kind of started ramping up. And like this one night I came home and I parked my car in the garage, and all of a sudden the lights on my kids' helmets just turned on. And there's like blinking lights, on their helmet, and like I just got this like really cold feeling that I wasn't alone in my garage, and like I don't know how to explain that because again, any of this could just be a chemical firing off in my brain, and I think, oh, this is happening to me.
Is that what it's called? I don't know what it's called, but
so anyway, so then the last night that I was writing my film, I was sitting in the lobby by myself. And I'm typing away, and I noticed that there is a black figure standing behind me. And I'm kind of watching the glare in my screen, and the black figure is slowly walking up on me. And I was like, okay, whatever. This has got to be one of the other guys I'm working with.
Dopamine, tomato. It's dopamine.
Yeah, like it could just be a drop, some dopamine drop, and who knows. But anyway, so I'm sitting there typing, and I can see this black figure walking towards me. And so I just assume it's the other guy that I'm working with, and he's trying to scare me. So I wait till just as the black figure starts to go to put its hand on my shoulder, and I stood up and I turned around and I said, fuck you. And there was nobody there. And I can't describe the feeling. It felt like my whole body went numb.
That's crazy, man. I'm sorry about that. Man.
No, it's crazy. I closed my laptop and I've never gone back to my film.
You believe in UFOs? Like extraterrestrial? Are you a UFO guy?
Yeah, man. Oh. Dude, so just go outside and look up.
Do you believe that there's life on Mars?
I don't know about Mars. I believe there's definitely life out there.
Like on Pluto, on Jupiter, our friend Uranus, life on all of it?
Who knows? They've found several galaxies, right? Like, if a bunch of fucking monkeys can get as far as we have, you don't think something else could maybe be fucking flying around?
Society's changing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I guarantee if there is extraterrestrials, when they drive past Earth, they look at each other and go, ew, ghetto, and just drive the fuck on.
They go on Twitter and see how many people are canceled, you know? It was a joke. It was a joke.
Who has been canceled today? You heard what happened to Sean. Got canceled.
It's for Cynical, Sensibly.
Yeah.
Fear, where can people find your podcast, man?
For sure. You can just check us out. We're on all the things, but if you go to youtube.com/TwaT FM, it's got links to all of our shit. And as well, Canadian Trash Gaming. That's our gaming channel where we play different games. And I don't know. I usually get high as shit and just do dumb stuff.
You get people chatting with you sometimes on there?
Sometimes, yeah. The other day I was streaming and I had a couple other streamers join me that like we just hooked up as we were playing, and we got a couple of wins in Warzone and shit. And so yeah, man. So I'm like, all right, groovy. Like this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
social media accounts. What's your?
Yeah, just anything at TwaT FM or at Canadian Trash Gaming.
And then of course your Fear Innes on Instagram and.
Yep. Yeah. If you go to Instagram at Fear Innes, that's got all the links to all the shit, plus my sexy ass and all the weird stuff I do. You know, I'm still on Twitter, but I don't do a lot on Twitter anymore. So yeah, so now I'm on TikTok at Canadian Trash Gaming, and then MDI is at Creating with MDI, and so she's usually baking or cooking or doing something fun over there, and then I'm just, I don't know, doing high thoughts on mine.
You stay safe up there, okay? Up north.
Absolutely, man. You guys keep it real down there, eh?
And go Raptors, right? And Jays.
Yeah, all that good shit, man.
All right, man.
Ooh, now it is time to enter Zombie World with Hunter Block, the co-host of the Anti-Social Show. Ooh, happy Halloween.
Block, what's going on, man?
Not too much. What's going on with you?
Yeah, just chilling, man. Doing this Halloween special, you know.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you called upon me for this because I love Halloween, and this is my first Halloween episode of the season. We haven't done one yet, so it's definitely exciting. So I wanted to make sure that I was here for this. So.
Well, for the listeners who were under a rock and didn't listen to the Tom Cruise podcast, you're a co-host of the Anti-Social Show, right?
Yes, along with Tyson Sainer, the Insaner,
who has been on this podcast 3 times before. So you're one away.
Pass him, though. I'm telling you, I'm going to hold the record. What is there? You said the record was like 4 times for like one guest.
Well, you're going to be in the. By the time that they listen to this, the record will be 4.
Okay.
So right Rudolph will be the guy that has 4. Paranormal Activity was a good way to start it off. You know, that was fun.
Absolutely. Well, if you think about it, do you remember? I think we talk about this, like the Blair Witch Project. I could have sworn that was like a thing because that's what it reminds me of. Because everyone thought the Blair Witch Project was real back in the day, and everyone thought that Paranormal Activity was real also. And from what I remember from the movie, it had great special effects and everything like that. So it could have passed as a real thing, except I happen to know one of the actresses on it who I think died in the movie. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that, guys, but. When I was talking to her for the first time on Combat Radio, which was my first time being on anything, they were like, "So, are you disappointed that she's, alive and it's not real?" And I'm like, "Damn!" And here, I never thought that Paranormal Activity was a real thing, but I mean, it was definitely a good watch if you're into like ghosts and things like that.
But we're here to talk about zombies. So you're actually Zombie Bacterium on Instagram. Twitter. How'd you think of that name?
Years back, I was trying to do like an indies movie as far as like zombies are concerned. So we needed like a production name. And I started going with Zombie, I think it was like Zombie Infected or something like Zombie Infected Productions. But apparently when I started Googling different names and things like that, it was taken already. So the one thing that wasn't taken was Bacterium. So I just put Zombie Bacterium, and that's how we kind of like rebranded ourselves. As far as like the indie movies concerned, it never actually took place, even though we filmed it. We just never got it edited or thrown up, and we had a script and everything, so it was pretty cool working on it at the time. But unfortunately, the whole indies movie thing kind of died down for me, and podcasting is very much what I do nowadays.
Yeah, and it's really good, by the way. And I appreciated you guys having me on as a guest. That was really fun.
Anytime.
Yeah. So, what is it about zombies that you like? Do you just like the people that mimic the
For me, my very first horror movie that I can remember watching or being allowed to watch was Night of the Living Dead. So to me, I love the whole mythology behind it. So I remember Scream Greats by Tom Savini. Tom Savini back in the day was like this really dope ass makeup artist, special effects guy. He does like stunts. He does a bit of acting, and he was in a lot of George Romero's things like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. So watching Scream Greats was kind of like a variation of everything that he's ever worked on. So watching like all of those different scenes and how he did stuff, it really caught my interest. Plus, I mean, come on, if you're going to have an apocalypse of some kind, it's got to have zombies, man. At least you can survive zombies. You know, they don't require much. They just walk around like, and they just shoot them in the head.
Like Shaun of the Dead when the guy throws the vinyl, you know, I mean, you know. No, so you want to start with Dawn of the Dead then?
Yes. Now, which Dawn of the Dead have you seen? Have you seen the original or the remake?
The remake that was in 2004. And what's interesting was that's the same year they both came out in 2004, the Shaun of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead, you know.
And both were great, but I love now when it comes to reboots. Don't get me wrong, I do love some reboots, but I do love the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Now it's not that much far off from the original by George Romero because they both wound up surviving in the mall.
Well, let's go over Can you go over the plot for those that haven't seen it?
Yes. So essentially, in both the remake and obviously the original. There are a bunch of in the remake there were strangers essentially, and they're essentially surviving the zombie outbreak. It's like the very beginning of everything, and they wind up kind of like conjugating to the mall essentially. So now they're inside the mall, but they don't give you like a time span of how long these people been in there. So they're kind of like at first cool with everything, and they're kind of like just surviving, and then they start getting like cabin fever, and they start getting on each other's nerves, and they basically come up with the idea that they have to escape, essentially. So that's pretty much going forward from the middle of the movie to the end of the movie is basically coming up with this way to get out, because at this point, at least in the remake anyway, you step outside the mall and there's like probably like 1 million zombies just trying to break in and stuff like that. Plus, there's a guy, as you know, I forget the guy's name now, but he's on the roof of this other building because they've been communicating for quite some time now, but he has all the ammo. So now they have to rescue him to get to the guns, and starving to death. So they got to get him food. So that's kind of where it went awry when they lowered the dog down into the zombie pit.
Yeah, that was good. But what I noticed was that in Shaun of the Dead, the zombies are actually more like coordinated than Dawn of the Dead. Like
kind of like those zombies are cool too because they're the ones you should fear the most. Kind of like the zombies from like Return of the Living Dead when they can like talk and operate machinery and things like that. Where the zombie in Return of the Dead comes in and says, "Send more paramedics" or "Send more cops." So, but yeah, Shaun of the Dead was a fun. It's a comedy, right? So it was a fun like horror comedy, like Zombieland, for example. They were both like a good time, so you can have like fun time laughing while dealing with zombies at the same time. And I like the one dude, the dude that played in who was the dude that played Victor in Underworld?
Bill Nighy?
Yes, that's the guy.
That guy, that person, the guy. He also was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes. He was also in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead was I got that somewhere, in fact, or I used to have that somewhere on the shelf.
Yeah, you watched it back in the day, you know?
Oh, yeah. Whenever I used to binge watch zombie movies, it always started off with Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, why do you think people like that one so much, you know?
I think it's because if they're like, you know, if they want to watch like a zombie movie without being like too scared, that would be the one to watch. You know, if it's kind of like if zombies aren't like your thing, you can at least handle Shaun of the Dead because again, you're dealing with zombies. But it's also a goofy time as well because here you have like these two guys that basically spend a night drinking in the bar and then they come out and haven't even realized that there's like a whole zombie apocalypse going on around them. And what's funny about this is where other zombie movies where like, you know, you're kind of like fighting off the dead, you know, friends with the zombies at the end. So they kind of learn to like coexist, kind of like the slacker dude playing video games on the couch after he's been dead. He's like all chained up and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm a little biased though, Hunter. My first name is Sean, full disclosure. No, but so Shaun of the Dead, this guy's a salesman and he has like a loser best friend.
You know, his stepdad's a real ball buster. He's like, how come you haven't called your mother today? Get your ass down there and talk to your mother. It's Mother's Day, whatever it is. He's always like there. So it's definitely I would put that in my top queue as far as like zombie movies are concerned, and it's the only one I can get the wife to watch, so it's all good.
Oh, you can't get the wife to watch Zombieland with Woody Harrelson and
Zombieland, yes, because we did see Zombieland Part 2 in the theaters, but
2009, and we're gonna get to that one.
Oh my God, that's a great movie too. But so Shaun of the Dead is definitely in my top pick for zombie movies. So anyone who has watch it.
I got a game for you.
Okay.
Or for trivia question, what do you think got a higher rating on Rotten Tomatoes, Shaun or Dawn?
Probably Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it got 92. Yeah. So what's your I know you said that, Shaun of the Dead is, good. Is a good one. What's your favorite though? Your personal favorite of all time?
Day of the Dead.
Okay, talk about that one.
Okay, so there's been a lot of variants of this movie, but as far as like the original, it's the third one in the trilogy. So you have Night of the Living Dead, you have Dawn of the Dead, and then finally Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead, they're in Florida, in fact, and they're all in this like there's a team of like scientists and there's a military team that have been they've been isolated for a while because that's how long this thing has been going on, and they're in this underground bunker. Now they have everything that they need to survive, essentially, but again, it's a matter of cabin fever. They're all getting on each other's nerves. The guy that's been taken, the guy that's in charge now, as far as like the military aspect is concerned, is a real dickhead, and he's like, I want to see results, and what are you doing? And then the one scientist guy who's in charge, he's like, well, you got to give us some time. We're gonna show you something, and he's like, yeah, no, fuck that. We're gonna eventually get out of here. So that's what they're trying to do. They're basically trying to find a cure for what's been going on. But this scientist guy, he's trying to get these zombies to he's trying to domesticate them essentially. So he's trying to prevent them from eating us. And he is successful with one zombie who starts to show intelligence. His name was Bub. So, I mean, that's kind of like his pet zombie. And this guy could shoot guns and things like that. He knew exactly what was going on for a zombie, where the other ones were kind of stupid. That one is definitely good. But, again, if you're going to go with the trilogy as far as like George Romero's concerned, you got to start with Night of the Living Dead, because now that was a good time. Again, if you look at the history of like Romero zombie films, everyone just gets, they're all held up in a place, a different place. One was a house, one was an underground bunker, the other one was a mall, and they all do get on each other's nerves. But you do learn a life lesson here. If you all just shut the fuck up and just chill, they'll survive. It was kind of like in Night of the Living Dead. Like all they had to do was just chill the fuck out, and in the morning, help did come. But they were like, they were arguing over whether they should stay in the house or go into the basement, and the guy wanted to go into the basement, the other guy wanted to stay in the house, and it's like, guys, shut the fuck up, just go in the attic. You're fine. Just hold there, you'll be fine, you have all the goodies you need. And then the next day, help did come, but by then it was monumentally too late. Now, this movie came out in like the 1960s. It was, in fact, interesting factoid about Night of the Living Dead. The day that it hit the movie theaters, that was the exact same day that Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact that this movie had like a lead actor that was a black guy was fantastic. This guy was in the remake of that movie was Tony Todd, the Candyman.
Yeah. Let's transition to Zombieland, if that's all right.
Yep, Zombieland. All right.
So Jesse, people know Jesse Eisenberg, the guy that was on Social Network. My favorite scene is when they're in that booth, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Where they're at that amusement park or whatever, and they're like shooting people, shooting dead people, and it was cool. What do you recollect of that movie? Like, what's your recollection of that film?
Well, aside from Woody Harrelson being like friggin' phenomenal, I mean, I like the fact that my favorite scene would have to be like the grocery store, like when they're in the grocery store looking for Twinkies, believe it or not, because I'm very much a fat ass and I love Twinkies, and he's just He's out with like, a
Everyone
guitar.
has an inner, I pride myself in I can put a dent in a Little Caesars pizza by myself. I take pride in that.
Back in the day, I could take on an entire pizza by myself, but not so much anymore though. But
yeah, no, like if I'm hungry, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Especially those hot and readies, man. Pepperoni, No, but so that's a good movie. It's got who else is in that? Emma Stone.
Bill Murray was in that movie.
Yeah.
Shot his ass.
So Jesse Eisenberg is a college student.
Yes. So he's a college student, and he's basically like a recluse, if I'm saying that right. And basically, he goes to school. I think they never say where.
A guy that has no life, and that's a running theme of these zombie movies is people that have no lives.
Exactly. So he's trying to get back home because he lives in Columbus, Ohio. Hence, his name is Columbus. But the thing about it is, it's they run into these other chicks who steal their shit, steal their ride. So now when they finally hook back up with these two chicks, Little Rock and who was the other one?
Let's see, Wichita. Is it Wichita?
That's it. Yep, that's her.
And Little Rock is Chris's younger sister.
Yes.
So. And in Double Tap, which is, like you said, the sequel that came out not too long ago,
I came out about 2 years ago, in fact, because we were on our honeymoon when we went to go see it in the movie theaters. Figured we go see a movie on our honeymoon, right?
Do you think it was like underwhelming? Like it didn't do as good as you thought, or was it like the second one? Do you think it lived up to the hype, if there was any?
No, I don't think that the second one was all right. It was cool, but it did not. It wasn't as great as the first one. I mean, here you have a bunch of people who are surviving. They're just, driving around after they decided that going home wasn't the good idea anymore. And they haven't run into a single person at all, period, except for Bill Murray when they broke into his house. They ate his food, smoked his pot, and shot him. So and they were like, living in his house after that. So, I mean, the first one was fantastic. The first one was awesome. But I don't think the second one really lived up to because, the second one was kind of campy. It was kind of goofy. It was kind of like, But, I mean, it wasn't horrible.
I'm just going to finish one of the scenes here that I like. I remember this now, of the first one. Sorry. So, don't they take Tallahassee's Escalade?
Yes. Because they're walking down the street, him and Columbus, and he's like, that's a really cool van. And then Tallahassee's like, oh, that is nice. That's a really cool van. Yeah. I want my caddy back, you stupid little bitches. And then, of course, they do get lucky because then they find that other vehicle. What was it? That Hummer, and it had all the automatic weapons in the back. And he's like, "Thank God for rednecks. This is a really big truck, and these are really big guns." And then, obviously, Columbus is like, "Take your time," and he's just like out there like firing off like the AK-47 and shit and having a good time. So, I mean, if you're gonna be in a zombie movie, you have to be in zombie.
Why do you think people liked it?
Aside from it being like goofy as fuck,
the characters, like the people playing.
I think the characters carry the movie also too. If you think about it, it's like the safest. If you're gonna have to be in a zombie movie, it's like the safest zombie movie you can be in. Think about that. Like you can go to any place you want and live and have anything you want and not really have to worry about zombies too much because. I mean, how many zombie scenes did you actually really see during Zombieland? There was only a few, like in the early beginnings when the apocalypse was happening. Very few, like in the grocery stores. Or when they broke into that Native American store and started trashing the place. There was maybe like one zombie, so it's not too horrible. But yeah, I would rather be in Zombieland. At least you're gonna live. You know what I mean? Until you get to the amusement park with those two dumbasses and start turns on, and it's like you got Bozo the zombie clown, and so.
Bozo. I never thought we'd talk about Bozo on here. According to Wikipedia, a zombie is a mythological, undead, corporeal revenant created through the reanimation of a corpse.
Yes.
Zombies are basically horror and fantasy, and the term comes from Haitian folklore.
Yes, voodoo.
Interesting. And it first entered the English language in 1819 when the poet Robert Southey wrote History of Brazil.
Have you ever seen Serpent and Rainbow?
That's a deep pull.
Recommend for your listeners out there, I recommend watching Serpent and the Rainbow. That movie was real fucked up. It's about voodoo.
Yeah. So it's sensible and cynical. Yeah. And mostly cynical.
Mostly cynical.
Sometimes sensible.
Sometimes.
Are zombies sensible or cynical? What do you think?
I think they're cynical because, they're basically out for themselves. I mean, they
They're
just
not,
want.
they're not sensible.
Nope, they're not sensible. I think I only ever came across one sensible zombie in a really dumbass zombie movie, only because he was a vegetarian before he died. So he refused to eat people. So he was like a good zombie.
So zombie has a lot. You want to know some things with zombie in it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Zombie is a cocktail of rum and fruit juices.
Nice. So it's an alcoholic beverage.
Synonym is living dead, ghoul, walking dead, information worker, intellectual prostitute. Here we go. Quora. Have you been to Quora.com? It's the one where like informational. Guy goes, no, mummies are real, preserved bodies through various drying methods. Zombies are, without the exception of some talking heads on TV now. That's really good. Zombies are, with the exception of some talking heads on TV, make believe. That's really fucking good. So let's get to Walking Dead. You said you haven't watched it in a year?
Yes, unfortunately, I was every Sunday when The Walking Dead was on. that was like my you don't mess with me, you don't talk to me, like you just leave me alone until The Walking Dead is done, or you will suffer very badly.
So let's spoiler-free plot of it. There's this cop, right?
Yes, Rick Grimes.
Rick Grimes in Atlanta, and he gets a bunch of people that
essentially
trying to escape.
Rick Grimes woke up from a coma, and he was trying to find his wife and son, and he winds up in Atlanta where he runs. Thankfully, he runs into the right group because that's where his wife and son was, with them and his ex-partner. So that's how it kind of started off, and then they started kind of like just roaming the landscape. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes their group got big, sometimes they got small. Right now, they're in communities right now, so it's been on for like almost 5-7 years now, or 9 years, however long it's been. So there's so much that's happened. Like you run into so many, like you had like the Whisperers, for example, who was like the really badass of the villains. You had Negan, for example, who was part of the Saviors and shit. He had like that ball bat with the barbed wire wrapped around it. So I mean, you had the wolves. So there's been plenty of, and you even have cannibals actually in that TV show, because they were held up in like a train station, and essentially they had like these welcoming signs, like, oh yeah, you want to survive, you come here. And the real test of it was they would feed you heartedly with food, but the test was you're basically eating people essentially. So if you're okay with that, then you're fine. If you're not okay with that, you're gonna wind up on the menu. So I mean, it's a very huge storyline, and it's fucked up but great. So if you really love like kind of like your classic zombie, but like a touch of like they do run after you and shit like that, then yeah, you definitely want to watch The Walking Dead.
It's on AMC, right? But they're announcing the last season.
Yes, so much has happened on The Walking Dead, and I don't want to give, like I said, I haven't watched it like here, but
it got saturated.
It definitely did, because there's only so much you can realistically do. I mean, with different like battles that they had, and they have like communities. They found home essentially, but again, there's only so much you can do. You know what I mean? Before you have to just say, okay, it's time to just wrap it up now.
Let's see. The first part of season 11 of Walking Dead ended with episode 8 on October 10, 2021. Season 11 will resume with 8 more episodes in February of next year. Interesting. Yeah. They always space it out like that?
Yeah, they always do. There's always like a gap in like, so they have like a season, and then there's always like a rest period before they get to the back end. So
Money Heist. I watched the show called Money Heist on Netflix. Nice. It's a great show.
There's also another great show I've been watching too. It's called Only Murders in the Building, which is basically a podcast, basically about a murder that took place in an apartment building.
I love a thing that's getting popular too is people doing podcasts about a podcast.
Yes.
Those are great. Like I know there's like multiple Joe Rogan podcast reviews.
Joe Rogan.
Like they literally just do podcasts about his podcast. Let's continue with Walking Dead. So talk about the storyline. Like how exactly did they draw it out?
So they essentially, in a very weird way. I mean, the storylines, depending on like what season it was, I mean, it goes in all different directions. So it's kind of hard to really narrow down to one like particular storyline, because they're either, like I said, they were either battling with the Saviors, or they were battling with, the Whisperers. And I mean, the Whisperers were fucked up in and of themselves. These guys camouflage themselves literally in dead people. So like they're walking among zombies and they can control zombies somehow, or they're battling each other. So it goes off in different directions depending on what season it was. I mean, there's plenty of different storylines. The best advice I can give is just to watch it from season 1 and just go from there.
Who's your favorite character?
That's Michonne. A badass, dude. She first of all, she's fucking dope as fuck with a katana. Not only that, she's walking around, dude. When you first get introduced to her, she's walking around with these 2 dead dudes with their fucking jaws ripped off on chains like they're dogs, right? So You're going to love any character. I mean, anyone can say, oh, yeah, I like Rick Grimes because, he's badass. Andrew Lincoln's badass. Or Norman Reedus, when he played his character. But, like, those, I feel like they're too easy. You know what I mean? For me,
they're called the zombies are actually called walkers, right?
They're called walkers. Yep.
Yeah, so.
Honestly, I was calling them walkers there for a while, too. I haven't called a zombie in years. Until we started doing the show here, and then it's like, it's like, oh yeah, they are zombies in a way, but I mean,
we're going full zombie here on the Sensibly Cynical podcast.
Yes,
full
zombie.
Yeah, here on it's the Halloween special, Hunter. It's huge.
Happy Halloween to everybody out there, and if you're going out there trick or treating, my friends, remember 2 things. 3 things. First of all, watch out for monsters. 2. Your candy, and always slice your apples in half just in case.
One last thought about Zombieland before we close up shop here. Did you know that Zombieland broke the Dawn of the Dead record?
Did it?
Yeah, $60.8 million in 17 days. That's wild.
That is wild.
Box office,
But you know what though? It had a great storyline. It was funny and serious at the same time. So I can see why. Where Dawn of the Dead was just like a straight serious movie.
It's good stuff. Hunter, thanks for being here, man. This has been a good time. You and Tyson are always, welcome, and
vice versa. Back on.
Yeah, man. So where can people find your podcast, man?
You can go to our home site, which is, of course, brigaderadio1.org. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on iTunes. Yep.
All right, man. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you for having me. And for all you listeners out there, happy Halloween.
I hit the jackpot. 3 for 3. Last but not least, Josh from the Still Loading podcast joined me to talk about Manhunt, the 2003 stealth video game, over the top, sadistic, etc., etc. This is going to be a hard out. Thank you for listening to Sensibly Cynical. Take care, guys. Happy Halloween. Joining me now here on the Halloween special is Josh from the Still Loading podcast. Thanks for being on here, man.
Dude, thank you for inviting me back on. It's always a pleasure to come back on Sensibly Cynical.
Yeah, it's spooky. Ooh. Oh man, so I got a funny story to tell you about today. The first time you were on the podcast, we talked about Zelda. And do you remember the first thing we talked about? It wasn't Zelda. Do you remember the first topic we brought up during that episode?
Not even in the slightest, man.
Blizzards. Do you know what I had today in honor of this podcast? A blizzard. It's only fitting.
My wife and I, we do a weekly, we're trying to eat healthier, but we also want to still treat ourselves every now and then, so we treat ourselves to a blizzard once a week. That's like our weekly ice cream.
Because I remember that story. Chocolate ice cream or something. Retell that story before we get to the Manhunt.
So I was on a missions trip with my church, and there was this dude we went to a Dairy Queen in Texas, and there was a guy who was behind the counter. His name was Hovey, and he was making our ice cream. What is it? We were asking for like a chocolate blizzards or something like that. A blizzard with chocolate ice cream. And he just kept saying, we only mix our vanilla with chocolate. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean by that.
It gets me every time, man. But no, man. Rockstar Games, Manhunt. So this is the same people that did Grand Theft Auto, right?
Grand Theft Auto, Bully was another popular game of theirs. They've done a lot of stuff, but what I found out kind of recently about Rockstar is that they were more of a collective of like various different developers that all just kind of published under Rockstar, and then Rockstar ended up buying them all out, essentially. So, like, it's weird how Rockstar kind of got started, because they were, like, Grand Theft Auto 3, I want to say, wasn't developed internally necessarily by Rockstar, even though it kind of was. It's really, I have to look more into it, but yeah, Rockstar, man, they are known for pushing the envelope in their games, and that is an understatement, to say the least. You know, Grand Theft Auto always courts a lot of controversy, and this game blew that out of the water in terms of the controversy surrounding it. Well, not as much controversy, but in terms of the violence, like, it really caused quite a big stink.
2003, right? It came out for PS2. Didn't it also come out for Windows and Xbox later?
And Xbox.
Like a year later, right?
Yep. It came out in November of 2003 for the PS2, and then the spring of 2004, so not quite a year later. But yeah, the game, pretty much the whole premise of the game is you play as this dude named Cash. I'm blanking on the dude's first name.
I actually wrote that down. James Earl Cash.
Yes, James Earl Cash. He's a death row inmate, and he's supposed to be executed. However, it turns out he was only sedated, and he wakes up in this. The best way I can describe the visual aesthetic of this game is it looks like Saw combined with like a stealth horror game.
Which, if you're a listener of the Sensibly Cynical podcast, you would know Saw is one of my favorite movies. Anyways, continue.
I don't even like horror movies, dude. The original Saw movie is fantastic. Then they just kind of turned into like torture porn movies.
So it's basically a stealth survival horror game, right? Third person. You know, what's funny is, just before it starts, it's like you're going for gang people, and it's like, they're scum just like you. Ready, go.
It really throws you into the deep end right off the fucking bat.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The first thing they do is that you're being directed by this guy simply known as the director, and you find out later he's making snuff films, and you're just like a guinea pig for his snuff films, and he just wants you to kill people in really sick, like, violent ways. And the game does not shy away from it. The first thing you do is you grab a plastic bag and you suffocate a dude, and they even have a meter, essentially, like when you're locked onto an enemy, when it changes, when like the little target changes to red, that's when you get the most violent type of kill. So if you wait for it to get to red with a plastic bag, you wrap the dude's head up with a plastic bag, punch him in the face until it's all bloody inside the bag.
That's crazy.
His neck. Like, they throw you into the fucking deep end within the first 5 minutes.
I know the UK banned Manhunt too.
Yeah, well, that's because a little bit of game controversy here. Their first Manhunt was tied with a murder in the UK. It turns out later that it was like the court and the police rejected that it was tied together. Basically, this kid killed one of his friends, like this teenager killed one of his friends. The victim is the one who actually had the game, but he still killed his friend in kind of a manner similar to what happened to one of the methods that you could do in the game.
Wow.
That's fucked up. It's pretty messed up. And so, yeah, the victim's mother said, I think I heard some of Warren's friends say that he was obsessed by this game. To quote from the website that promotes it, it's a psychological experience, not a game, and it encourages brutal killing.
It's a storyline where you have to kill gang members to continue on, right?
The director, quote unquote, is legit encouraging you on. And what's crazy, the voice actor for the director, like the whole antagonist of this game, is Brian Cox. He's a pretty famous actor. He's been in like the Bourne movies. He's been in, like, if you look at his IMDb page, he has over 230 acting credits. He's going to be in the new Blade Runner TV show that's coming out later this year.
Nice.
He was in Good Omens, that David Tennant and I can't remember all the different actors in it, but he's been in so many different things, and he's a big actor. I remember him most from, I believe he was in the Bourne movies. I'm sifting through his IMDb right now just to make sure, but he was in Deadwood as well, the TV show Deadwood. Like, this dude's been around. Yeah, so he was in the Bourne movies. That's a really big, like, that's a big fucking actor, and it's funny because when I was watching the video just to get reacquainted with it again, I was listening to the director. I'm like, holy shit, this guy sounds familiar. Is this the guy I'm thinking of? And I was right. It was Brian Cox. I just didn't know the dude's name because he's always a character actor. You never think of him as like a leading man type of thing. This game like attracted so much controversy mainly because of the murder of Stefan Pekira, which is tragic and awful. It's just the game's nuts. The game is certifiably like the different ways you can kill people. Like if you get like a glass shiv, you stab out people's eyes and stuff.
Yeah, man. So what happens when you go on further in the game?
I mean, essentially what you're doing is that you're just kind of playing through the game as James Earl Cash, and you're killing all the different people that the director wants you to kill. And every kind of towards the end of every like section, Cash ends up getting abducted by a private militia who works for the director, who works for the main bad guy, and they take you to a new area. Then you have to kill basically another gang. Each area is a bunch of different gangs, and the gangs are all pretty messed up. Like the people you're killing are actual legit bad people. Like one of the first gangs is just a generic gang, but then the next gang is neo-Nazis.
It's kind of like Saw, where the people getting into the machines are evil people that I'm just,
Yeah, well, but then there's like Hispanic occultists. There's actually like pedophiles later on. Like a different gang is pedophiles. Like you kill a lot of messed up people. Occultists, I don't know why they have to specify Hispanic, but basically the director doesn't see any harm in this because you're a bad person and so are the people that you're killing. So why isn't it an issue, right? Towards the end of the game, Cash wants to get out of this, and you find out that the director actually has his wife and kid down. And
that's crazy, man.
It's forcing him to continue to do this. Well, you get to the end, and on the TV, he watches his wife and kid get murdered by the director. Like,
what?
On TV in front of him. So the final boss of this game, dude, his name is Pigsy. Have you ever seen this thing?
No, I haven't.
Pigsy?
I played this game a few times, and it's crazy. I know it's got 20 levels, and you're right. Each they're called scenes, each scene, and you just go to the end. It's awesome, man. You kill people, and it's back then, man. Back then, this game was crazy. It still is crazy, but like people like when this came out, though. I remember when this came out because my friend was like, my friend told me about it because he was also playing Mortal Kombat at the same time.
I think what's different about this is like the violence in like Mortal Kombat is almost comedic. Like it's so over the top that it's like it's uncomfortable to watch, but it's more fun. Like it's done in a more fun spirit. The violence in Manhunt is just fucking brutal. Like they really make you feel bad for killing these people. Like the director is constantly calling you like a piece of shit and stuff like that.
Well, what I found interesting doing more research about it is that Carcer City, which is the name, right? It was also mentioned in GTA 3. Did you know that?
Yes, there is ties, and they also reference San Andreas as well. So this technically takes place in the GTA universe. It's just obviously the gameplay is very different. The gameplay engine seems really similar to like GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas though. But the final boss of this, getting back to what I was saying, is Pigsy, who is it's just nuts. He is a giant man who wears a pig's head on, like, over top of his head. Like, he just wears a pig's head on as a mask almost. But it's a full pig's head, like something straight out of Saw. But it's not a mask, it's an actual pig's head. And he's running around naked with a chainsaw. And the first time I was playing this game, it scared the shit out of me because when you get to Pigsy, when I say he's naked, like he's full on naked. They blur out his genitals, but that dude's got a fucking swanger. Like he's got a big dick that's just swinging all over the place. They blur it out, but you see this shadow just like back and forth between his legs. I'm like, he had to be well endowed too. Like, it's already terrifying enough. Now he's just got this big swanger in your face. Like it's just terrifying.
I saw, and of course it's got this cult-like following, kind of similar to GTA, you know what I mean? Because I saw Vice put it as like one of Rockstar's best games of all time. Do you think that it's more of like people think highly of it just like customer review rather than the quality of the game? Or do you think the quality of the game was up there too?
I think the quality of the game is overall up there because the actual gameplay mechanics, if you take out the violence, it's actually a really good stealth game. It's a really good stealth game for the PS2. The violence, I think, is what makes it like top tier, just because it didn't make it violent for the sake of it being violent. I mean, they did, but they worked the story around that level of violence. Like the only reason they could justify like your character being that certifiably homicidal is that he's being forced to by this director dude for snuff films. Like they really worked. They wanted the creator of this game wanted to make this super violent, so he worked the story around it, and then he also worked the gameplay around it. The one thing that kind of sucks is towards the end of the game, it turns more into like a third-person shooter, and the controls aren't very great. But like the beginning, like the opening stealth mechanics are really fun. You have to find, whatever items you can get, whether it's a plastic bag, whether it's a shiv, whether it's a bat. You can get like a sickle blade, like one of those curved sickle blades later on. Like you have to find all these different weapons throughout the level, and then you use that to take out the enemies one by one, and you have to kind of do it strategically because they can gang up on you, and then it's a lot harder for you to fight when you don't really have like a gun. You just have like one shiv that's a one-hit kill type of thing.
What I found out also, historically, it says that the PlayStation 2 and the PC has better ratings than the Xbox did. Like that's what I read, that the Xbox one wasn't as good as the PS2 and Windows.
See, what's weird is I'm looking on like Wikipedia for the reviews, and like the PS2 obviously had really high reviews, but for some reason on the official Xbox magazine for Manhunt, it gave it a 4.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
And every other publication, like IGN, GameZone, GameSpot, all gave it like 8.3 out of 10s and stuff like that. Like barely. Game Informer gave it a 9 out of 10. Like
what did you play it on?
I played it for PS2. I have it somewhere back.
Josh has like cupboards filled with games.
You're only seeing a small portion of it. Like that way, there's a whole like bunch of shelves, and then behind the futon that you can't even see on the screen, there's more shelves. I've been collecting for a number of years.
Well, if you had to take a guess, give me a number on the amount of games you have.
Over 1,000.
When did you start collecting?
I would say that when I first started like really knowing that I wanted to collect, I would say it was probably like 2011, 2012.
That's amazing.
So I'm a collector on a budget. Like all the stuff that you see here, like that's been years. Like I would go to like one convention and spend like $300 or something, which is a lot, don't get me wrong, but I would try to maximize at $300. That's nothing compared to some other collectors, dude. There is a dude there who like I just saw had like fuck you levels of money. Like, there was a piece that was like it was like $800. He's like, oh yeah, I bought something like that last week. I'm like, the fuck, how much? What do you do for a living that you can just drop $800 on a piece of video game tech? And I'm not talking like. This wasn't like it wasn't like a PS5 that some scalper was selling. It was like an old system that only hardcore collectors would be interested in. But I'm like, what kind of how?
It's not just games though. Like people sell like cards. It's anything collectible will get crazy amount of money. You know, we can do our finishing thoughts on Manhunt in a little bit. I noticed on Instagram you posted that you just recorded your 200th episode. Congratulations.
I did. I just released the 200th episode, actually, as the day we're recording this, yeah. So my 200th episode, what I did was I wanted to find a way to incorporate a lot of different previous guests on. So what I did was I threw a fake party for my 200th episode. I just put, like, party sound underneath it, and then I had friends come on in character, doing, like, almost like improv comedy type of thing. But they had to be something related to a video game. The only guides that I gave them, I didn't want to know who they were before I spoke to them, so I had no idea who any of these people were, and none of the conversations were scripted. So I had no idea what video game character they were, and they had anyone who was a video game character could not be there to celebrate my 200. They had to be there for some other reason. So the joke of it would be that I keep getting slighted. I'm getting more and more mad. Like, nobody's here for my 200th party. Like, why are all you people here if you're not here to celebrate my 200th episode? I did a Q&A at the end. I had some audio snippets that people could send in. And then I just kind of did a big shout-out section. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm not too far from 200 myself. I think this is in the 160s somewhere. So
Nice,
I'm
dude,
getting
nice.
closer.
You've been at this grind for a while.
Well, yeah, the Sensibly Cynical itself goes back to 2017, but I started running it myself 18-19. So yeah, man, back to Manhunt. It sold 1.7 million. Like,
I'm not surprised. I mean, like, there's so much notoriety with this game just from its violence, from all this. Like I mentioned, the controversy with the murder over in the UK. Like, this game just carried so much weight to it. And I mean, even like I'm looking at the cover right now, dude, and it's just fucking terrifying. It looks like a Jason. It looks like Jason from Friday the 13th, but like with a more terrifying version of Jason. Like, that mask that dude's wearing is horrifying. Like, I'm not a big horror game fan, but this game I think actually holds up really well because it's creepy, but it's never to the point where it's necessarily scary in like terms of jump scares and like horror. But it's still horror because the shit you're doing is horrific. Like, it's just so bad. But I did an episode on this game a couple years ago. You can check that out too. It was like I did it with a buddy of mine named Mike, and this is a game that depicts you as a bad person, killing other bad people, making you feel bad for doing everything the game's forcing you to do in the first place. Like, it's just such a interesting way to make a game, but it works so well. Like, I almost feel like just people, I don't know. I'm always confused when people say this is one of their favorite games just because the content is just so violent. But at the same time, then I play it, I'm like, this is pretty good. It's pretty damn good.
do you think GTA people like Manhunt and vice versa, or do you think they're two different groups of fans?
I would probably say they're two different groups of fans. The gameplay is different enough. In fact, actually, one thing I forgot to mention with this, the developers of this game almost quit because at the time they were already dealing with all the controversy of Grand Theft Auto, all the all the violence that, like, Grand Theft Auto was the center of a lot of, like, stuck up, conservative people being like, oh, this is video games and violence and blah, blah, blah. And then, but at least in, like, GTA, like, you didn't have to do any of the violent shit in that game. Like, the game always, like, you didn't have to run pedestrians over or, like, beat up prostitutes.
Yeah, but it was boring if you didn't do that. I'm just kidding.
Like, you don't, but in this one, it directly is forcing you to do that. Like, it's required to get further in the game. So a lot of the devs were really nervous about this game because they were dealing with all the controversy of GTA 3, but they're like, well, this isn't required to play the game. In Manhunt, it's required.
But as you said, like, earlier, it has, like, sneakily, it's very creative and has great in-depth gameplay. And it's kind of innovative in a weird, kind of sick way.
It's interesting that this is a really solid stealth survival horror game, trapped, like, but it is, like, enshrouded by the drama of one of the most violent, brutal games of all time. Like I said before, Mortal Kombat's super violent and brutal, but almost in a more fun, playful way. This is just, it's Saw. It feels like Saw the game.
This leads me to my next question. The legacy basically is what you said. Like, it's a great game covered in controversy.
Yeah, it's a good game that's just enshrouded in controversy. Like, people will remember it more for its controversy than its gameplay, which is understandable to an extent because the gameplay, even now, like, if a game came out like this, it's just so hyper violent, it would still turn heads now. No matter what era you made this game in, there's going to be people who are going to be upset by it, and it's going to turn heads. Like, the history of violence in video games is fascinating. Like, one of the earliest, this is a real quick side tangent, but, like, put it this way, the way I know that it doesn't matter what era it's going to be, that people will find a reason to bitch about it, it's because in, like, the late 70s, there was a game called Death Race, and people were up in arms about it because it was like, it looked like Atari graphics, right? So, like, single color pixels. Like, I'm not talking
I remember Atari.
Yeah, it's single color pixels, and you're driving a car running over people. It does not look real. It's not. It looks ridiculous, but it caused a big problem in the media and a big problem with parents being like, how are we going? This is so violent. There's no blood, that you can't even tell it's a human. Like, it's barely recognizable as a character because it's an Atari game. It's an Atari level game. But that was back in the 70s, man. And people were already bitching about video games back in the 70s when there wasn't even an industry, really. So I can only imagine what it would be if a version of this came out now.
Did you ever play Manhunt 2? Let's talk about that real quick. So it's totally separate gameplay, right? Different characters.
I've never played Manhunt 2, actually.
Well, I know that got banned. I know somewhere.
It got banned in a couple different countries just because... Actually, I'm sorry. The Manhunt series you mentioned before, it wasn't Manhunt 1 that sold 1.7 million. It was collectively the series. Sold 1.7 million between 1 and 2. The second, from what I read of the second one though, is that it's a completely different character. Like, you don't play as Cash, which is weird because Cash doesn't die at the end. Spoiler alert: Cash doesn't die at the end of the first game. Like, you kill Pigsy, that big dicked chainsaw wielding psychopath. I'm sorry.
No. This is great.
So hard that Rockstar was like, you know what would be really great? Let's put a big swanger on this guy.
This game is fitting to be the last. This is part 3 of the Halloween special, Josh. This is it. They're already an hour in. They're already an hour into the podcast by the time they listen to this.
Well, I feel bad that they're listening to ending the Halloween episode with talking about a big dicked psychopath. So it's worth playing just for the shock value, if that's your thing. But even if you take out the shock value, it's a pretty decent stealth game.
Mm-hmm. Wait, any final thoughts on Manhunt?
Just give it a shot, or watch a playthrough of it. Actually, the playthrough is surprisingly interesting, especially like the voice acting is really good. It's very moody and atmospheric. Like, besides the kills being unsettling, the mood itself, like the world itself, is super unsettling because you're fighting all these horrific gangs. So it's at least worth trying out if you like stealth horror games. Even if you just like stealth games, the stealth mechanic's pretty good. So I'd suggest giving it a shot. But with that said, it is hyper violent and very uncomfortable. So if that's not your thing, stay clear.
All right, man. Josh, as always, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me on.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
And where can people find your podcast?
You can find Still Loading Podcast on Facebook, the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Still Loading Pod on all of them. You can find the podcast itself on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. I think I made it onto Audible now. I don't fucking know. I don't think I'm on Audible, actually. I'd have to double check. But yeah, you can find it a lot of different places.
All right, man. Thanks again.
All right, thanks.
Adios.